Welcome back, everyone. Toy Shiz here, and New York Comic Con 2025 has officially come to a close. Today, we are going to round out my New York Comic Con booth coverage with a trip around the Hasbro booth. Now, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of new on display, just FYI, but we will be covering the usuals. We got Marvel Legends, we have Star Wars, we have the new Tron. We'll take a look at those. I have some thoughts on that whole thing. And then, of course, Transformers, Ghostbusters, and the like. So we'll take a little trip around the booth and we'll just talk for about 20 minutes. So to kick it off, this would be the Transformers segment, of course. I got to see Amalgamus Prime on display. He looks fantastic, or whatever it is. It looks fantastic. It's a robot thing, but I was actually shocked at how small it was. When you see the renders, when you see the reveals, like at San Diego Comic-Con and that sort of deal, I, for some reason, thought it was going to be as big as Onyx Prime, like that sort of deal. Then we have the other Primes. So the 13 Primes are well underway. They're going to be having all of these. But this is that Quintesson sort of Transformer that is called the Quintus Prime. It's all a bunch of Q names when it comes to those. But again, about the size of Amalgamus Prime. Then we're finally getting into some actual functional robots here, where they're actually cars and not squid people and whatnot. So this is Sure Shot. All of these are slated for spring 2026. You might see these towards the end of December into January, that sort of deal. And then, of course, the deluxe Quick Strike, which if you like Beast Wars and if you like robot scorpions, then yeah, that'll definitely be for you. I like the tail. The tail has like a snake face to it. It's just interesting. It's all segmented, so that will move around. But yeah, I'm actually stoked. Not too much on the Scorpion, of course, but all of the rest of them, heck yeah, I'll definitely be picking those up. We got a better look at the upcoming Beast Wars Neo, right? Beast Wars 2, whatever it is. Big Convoy, the big old woolly mammoth Optimus Prime. And they had been talking about how they actually got to use the name Big Convoy instead of having to call him Optimus Prime here in the United States. Everybody else in Japan knows what's up. Us Americans with our Transformers, we like being coddled, apparently. Then we have the Leader Class Razor Claw. This thing is actually really big, especially with the wingspan. So that looks pretty great. Not necessarily one for me. I don't get too much into the Beast Wars. I like the Japanese Beast Wars, the more hand-drawn than the CGI stuff, if that makes any sense. And then, of course, we have Barricade. You got Transformers 1, Air Arachnid. And, of course, those are cool. So if you like those will be coming out, again, spring 2026. Just to kind of give you a better look at the Woolly Mammoth and Optimus Prime. A lot of people have said he's kind of on the small side. If you look at the cartoon, you have the big old Magmatron that came out, and then Optimus Prime as the Woolly Mammoth, Big Convoy, is smaller. So they're all appropriately sized. Razor Claw, he's a big old action figure. So yes, definitely very cool looks at all of these. These went up for pre-order, so this is the start of the new Seeker mold. We have Thundercracker, which I have to say, I can't wait till they do the other ones, Starscream and Skywarp, because they are just looking very stellar. I like the new body. That's really awesome. Spring 2026 and around, you'll start to see Thundercracker. And yes, Skywarp and Starscream are coming. I definitely pre-ordered Soundwave. I'm actually really stoked on this new, they're billing it as a Transformers 86 movie line, yada yada. But you get a bunch of cassettes, you get a Laserbeak and a Ravage and a Buzzsaw. So he looks good in person. Totally cool, totally stoked. I really like to live in the 86 sort of universe, G1 and all that, but I've been making exceptions left and right because the Age of the Primes toy line is really good. The prices are going up, of course, but you don't want to hear me talking about that for the next 20 minutes. We all know they're expensive. Now, fully revealed at New York Comic Con, they are going to be doing sort of a feudal Japan, very Asian influence on Optimus Prime and Starscream. So he's kind of like a Shogun Optimus Prime. He turns into an ox cart, which is amazing. and then Starscream is an eagle. And I like the whole Japanese lore influence on that. It's thinking outside the box, a little something different. Is it for me? I might get the Oxcart Optimus Prime because it's just so crazy. I actually really like that. And then in the big case, they showed off the upcoming humongous Grimlock from the Michael Bay movies. Yes, they will be doing all the other Dinobots from the Bayverse, so stay tuned for that, but they're kicking it off with Grimlock. This figure is as giant as it looks in this video. They needed a double extra long rectangle glass case for this sucker, but he will be in and around maybe this fall. You might see him sooner or later. So stay tuned for more information that'll be coming up at MCM London. And right before I let you go for the Transformers, on the last day, they had a Skybound Energon panel, and they revealed that they're going to be doing the basically 86 movie Optimus Prime, that new glorious figure that just came out, but they're going to give him the Megatron arm from the Energon universe. And it looks fine. It looks great. But I recently got the upgrade kit, and I just already did this myself. So while it's cool and you can order it on Hasbro Pulse if you want, I kind of already have it going. I don't think it looks bad by any means. It's already a done deal for me. And yes, you can rotate the cannon on top of the cab, so you can do all of that. But yeah, for this one, let me know what your guys' thoughts. Do you even like the Energon universe? I'm curious on that. I myself, big fan of the comic, and curious to see where they're going to take it for this quote-unquote second storyline. So looking forward to all of that. To move on to Star Wars. There wasn't a whole lot of Star Wars reveals. It was fun to look at all the figures for the vintage collection inside the glass cases. I did have a great conversation with the brand heads for Star Wars and basically just was honest with them, and they welcomed the honesty. I said, I'm at that point as a collector. I don't care about packaging. I don't care about the anniversaries. I take everything out of the box, but I do pick and choose with Star Wars. I am not a vintage collection collector. I prefer Power of the Force. I love my 90s figures, and that's where I will stay. However, these all look great. They're really starting to build out the world, but when it comes to Star Wars, and I think where collectors are primarily putting their money, especially for the vintage collection, I would say the original trilogy is where it's at. So I said, more of that. Let's do more of that. Don't leave all the other movies out because, yes, there are some people who like that, but original trilogy really does sell. As far as the new reveals that was at the Star Wars Marvel Tron panel, they just showed off a retro collection Garindin. That's the guy that tells the stormtroopers where to find Han and Luke and everything else in the very first movie. Garindin is one of my favorite sort of alien looks. That was one of my favorite Power of the Force character figures when I was a kid growing up. And I told them, and we'll be taking a look at Black Series in just a second, but when they asked, what characters you want to see, I said, yeah, a lot of original trilogy and Shadows of the Empire and Expanded Universe and whatnot. But if you want to go original trilogy for Black Series, put Garindin into the mix. So fingers crossed, we will see him eventually. In terms of Black Series, now I don't get every single Black Series figure. In fact, I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, I have all the main characters. I think I'm good. But if you want to do Shadows of the Empire and Dark Horse Comics and Dark Empire and all that kind of stuff, I am totally in. The prequel stuff is a no-go for me. It's just not interesting to me. I didn't like it when they first came out. I did, however, like the Tartakovsky animated Clone Wars. That was really cool when they did the little vignettes and then they had the full-blown movie setup. But yeah, that was great. But yeah, I'm just not in it to win it with that. However, now that they're doing Kyle Katarn, more of that. As a kid, I used to say Kyle Katarn for some reason, but yeah, it's Kyle Katarn. So in the vein of Shadows of the Empire and all of that, that aspect of Expanded Universe, I am totally in. So thank you for finally getting to Kyle. I think that he looks great, and I'll be looking forward to more of this. We also have a lot of the Disney Plus shows. I was honest with them and saying, look, this is not my cup of tea. A couple of them here and there, like the Stranger, visually as an action figure, he is cool. But in the story, in the shows, they're just not good. And you can tell not a lot of people watch them. I know a lot of people are going to tell me in the comments they're amazing. Why don't you like Star Wars? You want the conversation. You want me to say something like that. But I'll tell you the basics. They're all just really terrible to watch. It's just not Star Wars. Except for the fact of Skeleton Crew. I actually liked Skeleton Crew, but those figures all went to Ross. It was just like, oh, there they are, and there they go. So it wasn't that big a deal. I did tell them more of these dioramas, like with this Darth Vader and Luke set. That's right up my alley. I totally like that, because you can use it with other figures, like Shadows of the Empire, things of that nature. So yes, rest assured, a lot more Star Wars is on the way, hopefully more in the vein of the original trilogy. In terms of Ghostbusters, now they are continuing on with the Ectoglow series. They had the San Diego Comic-Con 2025 exclusives. You can go online to Hasbro Pulse. You can get the glow-in-the-dark Stay Puft and the Slimer. It's kind of a duo pack. And then at the panel, which was really cool, they showed off, they deep dived into the old Kenner catalog and found a bunch of unreleased real Ghostbusters toys, which they are going to be doing the Ectocopter sort of deal, which was never made. But yes, that's something more up my alley. I actually really like that. So more of the unproduced, unmade toys is where I'm at with real Ghostbusters. They also have the Ectoglow Ecto 1. You can also pre-order that. These are fine and dandy. I have no problemos with them. I just want some new stuff. So the Ectocopter for sure. They also had on display the Hasbro Haslab Ghostbusters Ecto 1, the set of figures, the movie stuff, yada yada. Yes, at last minute, I did back this. A friend of mine owes me $450 or whatever it was, because we had a pact, man. We said we were going to be strong, but I'm not going to let you have an Ecto 1 if I don't have an Ecto 1, so... I more so grabbed it to see how it will display with the Mondo Real Ghostbusters. And spoilers, unfortunately, the Mondo stuff will not fit in the Ecto 1, but they do look pretty cool displayed, I'm told. So I'm excited to see this ship in early spring 2026. Now, in terms of G.I. Joe, some pre-orders went up today. I'll put those links down in the description below. They had a few new reveals. They kind of had reveals leading up to New York Comic-Con, which was fun, and they kind of touched on them during the various panels. But I'll say this. I am not the G.I. Joe collector. What I do like about G.I. Joe is that they really seem to be going all in. If you are a collector, you seem to be eating well. You seem to be really taken care of. And when the initial startup with G.I. Joe Classified, I remember everything was really hard to find. I see G.I. Joe Classified all the time. So let me know, has distribution worked out better for you? Are you finding them a lot more in store? Are you pre-ordering them? I'm just curious, because I seem to see these things all the time, and I know they got a lot of exclusives, and those tend to be the hard ones to kind of come across. But in terms of what I like about G.I. Joe, I like the insanity of it. I can't tell you that much, but I did get to go to the Cold Slither concert during New York Comic-Con, and that was definitely a highlight of the trip. It's so bonkers. It was a lot of fun. But as you can clearly see, if you are a G.I. Joe Classified collector, I can see what you can set up, from all the vehicles to all the accessories. Everything just looks stellar. It's kind of like when I set up my Jakks Pacific Super Mario. The world building is insane, and you probably don't realize exactly what you have until it's all placed out before you. So in that sense, I mean, just in seeing it in a glass case at Hasbro's booth, that is amazing to see Sarge. I actually know who that is, Sergeant Slaughter. And then you have the off-road Jeep, whatever it is. You know what I mean? People, you could tell me down below. But then you have like weird animals, like a giant scorpion. You have that Walmart pack with the Spirit Ghost Wolf, which is right there, and Crystal Ball. And I did ask them about Crystal Ball. Hopefully, they're kind of working on it. They're doing with Marvel Legends and getting the Psylocke and Thanos. So hopefully you get to see some of those harder to come by ones coming back around, hopefully in the 2026 timeline. And then the new figures, which just went up for pre-order, all of these, like Lifeline and the Energon infected Molerat, which I had no idea until I was kind of looking at it before New York Comic Con, and they said, oh, this is kind of from the new Energon Skybound universe. And now, because I'm a Transformers fan, I thought, well, I might have to get one of these. So we'll see what happens. If I see it in the store, I'm not going to pre-order it. But like I said, in just the overall world building, You had this new, it's going to be a made-to-order snowmobile that's going to go with your other Haslab. That's cool. Again, you're going to have a big built-out world with all kinds of missiles and guns. And yeah, I have to say, to have a G.I. Joe collection as massive as this, I say Hasbro is doing pretty well for all of you collectors out there. Now, here's a point of, we'll say, controversy, contention, everything else, because there's always has to be one when you have a Haslab. As revealed, New York Comic Con, they are going to be doing a Tron Haslab. They're 3 3/4 inch. You've got light cycles. You got a big old grid display base. There's a lot going on. We'll just say this. Do the figures look good up close? Most definitely. I'm actually impressed that they were able to print so many digital lines and get so many details. Here's my thinking on this. I am not a Tron fan, so I don't really have much to say other than, yeah, it looks cool, or no, they don't look very good. I'll tell you all day. They look great in person, so there's no problemos with that. But the 3 3/4 inch, and then you have 6 inch. If I were a betting man, I would say that Haslab is sort of DOA. I could be eating my words, but I don't think there's enough Tron fans to support it, especially at that price. I could see a lot more people going for the 6 inch Tron line, which you are seeing right here. You've got the light cycle, you've got the figures. This all comes from Tron Legacy, which is a lot easier to watch, especially these days, as opposed to the original Tron movie, which for me is unwatchable, but I know a lot of you out there are going to love that. In fact, I might be going to see Tron Ares tonight, so I'll let you know how that goes. But you have Flynn, and you've got the other characters, and they also have Cora coming as well. She wasn't on display. But I think in terms of what collectors want, instead of a $260 Haslab, which is insane. It's insane, but I think they're banking on the fact that Tron fans have all this money, and they're just like, cool, I don't have these types of figures. I totally want them. For me, that's a no, dog. But in terms of the 6 inch, I still don't want them. They're not my thing. As the 3 3/4 inch, as I just said, they do look great up close. If I have any sort of thoughts on Tron, I really liked Tron Uprising. I loved that art style. I really liked the storyline. That was fun. That was the best thing that I saw for Tron ever. But let me know your comments down below for Tron. Then we have some Marvel Legends. Can't leave out the Marvel Legends. So these were actually great reveals, I have to say. I did talk to Hasbro, everybody, about the prices. They know the prices are expensive. We know the prices are expensive. So pick and choose what you want. Grab the ones that you think are going to be hard to find, even if that's a thing anymore. Who knows? But I would say, yeah, it's getting to be a thing. It's too expensive for all of these things. It really is crazy. But I'm so glad they're doing Inhumans, so you can build out that world. They have a new Build-A-Figure wave, which they have a lot of great characters in that. I really liked the Cowboy original Ghost Rider, the Spirit Rider. That's awesome. If I'm being honest, Logan World War II doesn't do much for me. He looks fine, mind you. And if you're wondering about the claws, it's kind of like from the animated series, the original 90s one where he met up with Captain America. Those are like wall scaling claws, not adamantium, just FYI. But then you have the Build-A-Figure. He looks awesome. You've got Enchantress. You have this Ironman armor, which I looked it up briefly while I was walking around New York Comic Con. I'm pretty sure that's like a magical armor. You can help me out down in the comments below. You have the 6-arm Spider-Man from Dark Avengers. Many different looks for the Dark Avengers. You, of course, have Bo. That's an interesting character. I always welcome new characters to get them on my shelf. That's where I'm at with Marvel Legends. And there are certainly a lot of new characters in this wave, like, we'll say, Werewolf by Night. I will say this, a couple extra head portraits would have gone a long way. In terms of accessories, it's kind of up in the air. Extra hands and head portraits, that would have been stellar. Then from the world of X-Men 97, which that is totally right up my alley. This was one of my favorite reveals from New York Comic Con because as I'm getting older, I have a ton of Marvel Legends. I keep seeing the same characters made over and over again. And Apocalypse is no exception. I got a dozen Apocalypse and then some. But I have been wanting them to do something in the vein of what NECA does with their cartoon TMNT line, and I think they've really succeeded here. The colors pop. That is a cartoon accurate, at least for X-Men Animated, X-Men 97, Apocalypse. He's 12 inches tall. He's made to order. He is $120. We know it's expensive, but that's how the world's going. So you can push a button and have it delivered to your door and not think anything of it, or you pass. And those are your options at this point. But to kind of give you a better look at this side, he looks stellar. So yes, I already ordered one. I love this. I did not pre-order any of the other Marvel Legends. I'm going to wait on those. But this one I definitely wanted, and I like the made-to-order look that they got going on. We had Mephisto and Dragon Man and this, and it just comes to your door, and I don't have to think anything of it, but it adds to your collection if you're that type of collector. All of the accessories that come with Apocalypse make sense. That was another great aspect that I liked. You've got the big old A shield, and you've got knives and how his hands contort into various monstrosities of destruction. You got the extra head portrait. So for that alone, that's where I'm at with Marvel Legends. So well done in that sense. And right before I let you guys go, they did ask. They said, so what do you want to see us make next? And thought about it, and I have a little bingo card, of which I got to post that on my Instagram because we got some of my old bingo card for upcoming Marvel Legends that I would have loved to have seen. But off the top of my head, I had said Man Spider and, of course, the Alien Spider Slayer. Now, if you can't do them at retail, do them as made to order. But those would be of my top list. So if those come out, you're welcome. But for the Alien Spider Slayer, I even mentioned, I said, you know, if you don't want to do the Alien Spider Slayer, which would go well with the whole alien craze going on right now. I don't know about Alien Earth, but you know how that goes. Do more Spider Slayer robots. Do the Tri-Spider Slayer. Do the Mega Slayer from Spider-Man the Animated Series. Do the Amoeba Blob. And do all those old-fashioned ones from the original Spider-Man run. J. Jonah Jameson funding it and yada yada. That's what I want to see. I want to see something outside the box in terms of Spider Slayers. That would be kind of fun to get a whole army of weird Spider Slayers. You did that Shumagorath. That looks amazing. So more up the weird alley for Marvel Legends. That is definitely where I'm at. But you've heard my thoughts, and now I'm curious to know yours. Comment below, let me know. Let's talk everything Hasbro's New York Comic Con reveals. And until the next one, I'll leave you guys with that. Adios.